Hi folks, if you saw recently, we posted that we would be missing our live stream. We just had lots of things going on, a sick kiddo, all those things that prevented us from being able to go live. But we did say that we would take your questions and do a sit-down Q&A.
And here we are.
And so I've got the questions that you all posted on that video. And I'm going to... Now, we have not practiced these. Darren doesn't know. So this is kind of almost like a live stream. It's just that you're not seeing it in real time. And
should I be scared?
Posting in the chat.
If I don't know, I don't know. I'm not ashamed. I got a lot of information in my head, but there's some things I just don't know.
Yeah, so we're going to, we've got 10 questions, and I'm going to ask Darren.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Hit me.
Oh, and I do want to say, all of you were very kind.
Yes.
And, all of the comments were just like, hope you feel better, get better soon. So thanks so much.
Dakota had a fever of 102.
0.8.
102.8, and that was a concern. And then we were concerned that we were contagious, and then Madison started to show a little bit of signs of a fever, and we're like, okay, Darren's going to get it next. And so we just kind of self-quarantined ourselves. We didn't want to come over here and get you exposed to it. And within a day, poof, it was gone. So it was just one of these little weird bugs.
Yeah.
Just a very high fever.
He still went out and mowed the lawn.
He went out and mowed the lawn, and he's
Crazy
like, I want to go
kid.
cut the grass. So, yeah. But then he came in and feeling really bad. I'm like, all right, let's calm you down, buddy. So.
Okay, so a few of these are people that had written in advance, and occasionally I'll queue up a few questions.
Okay.
And so these were our pre-queued, and then also some that posted directly onto the video that we posted.
All right.
All right, so Noah says, this is in regard to a Schwintek H-Column fastening. Okay, he says, first of all, thank you for all your videos on RV repair. What an asset to the community your instruction is. I am repairing my full wall slide, and the H-column is currently riveted to the wall. I have heard you say you hate that, and I am in agreement now that I will be drilling them all out. My question is, what size fasteners would you go back with if not rivets? I saw on some Lippert documentation that a number 10 pan head was recommended, but I didn't see a length listed. Just wanted to get your thoughts.
Okay, yes, I am not a fan of the rivets. I don't know why they do that. It's supposed to be a serviceable component on an RV, and when you rivet them and then you do a full body paint, I don't know. I'm not going to carry all the different paint colors to repaint those rivets, and I'm not going to go around with a compressor and a rivet gun to re-put them back in there. So yes, I do have the rivets to put them back in, but typically I understand they said a 10, but sometimes even a 12 gauge screw might work better. I'd go with a hardened steel kind. And I think the ones I use are like maybe an inch or an inch and a quarter. Really what you want to do is grab some meat. Now, if one of the things you could do is like pre-drill out the H-column. If you're going to put the same H-column back on, what I do is I just kind of offset, like if there's a hole here and a hole here, I go in the middle and make a brand new screw hole, pre-drill my H-column, and then go right into a brand new piece of meat on the RV, okay? And just orphan those rivet holes, because those sometimes are pretty good size holes. Just orphan those in place and put new screws on. You can get the black oxide kind of screws. I have 10s and 12s. I go with the Robbins bit, the square, S2 square. Black oxide, and just put those in, and that seems to work. And I go with a butyl tape on the backside and screw them in, and that's going to cover the original holes. And then if you needed to, you could get some black silicone to cover up the original holes. So when I'm done, rarely will I put rivets back in. They're going to go back in with screws so that the next person that comes along and works on this wonderful system doesn't have to overcome all these rivets problems.
Okay. Hunter.
I don't have my drawing board. Okay.
Oh yeah, we don't have a drawing board.
Okay.
Hunter wrote in about his converter.
Okay.
He says, I have an old 1999 Georgia Boy Pursuit, and my converter is bad.
Okay.
After watching your video, I did not see an answer to this question. I have a 50 amp converter, and I would like to replace it with something new, but unfortunately I can only find a 55 or 45 amp. What do I replace it with?
Yes. The function of the amperage of the converter is a function of how quickly it's going to charge your battery and how much juice it's going to take away from the available shore power feeding your RV. Okay, there's a whole formula, and maybe I need to make a note, and I think I might be fun to do a whole video on how to choose an inverter. So if you have a 30 amp coach, and to really get the answer correct, we would need to know what kind of battery you have, how many batteries you have, what kind of shore power you have, and how quickly you want to recharge your batteries. That all rolls into the thing. So if you are on battery power and you want to charge your batteries a little bit quicker, then by all means go with a 55 watt or 55 amp converter. It's going to charge your batteries faster. But in the process of charging your batteries faster, it's going to take some of the available shore power that's available for all the other appliances throughout the RV. Okay, so that is to say that it's a seesaw. So if you got 55 amps going to charge your batteries versus a 45 amp to charge your batteries, and that's a difference of 10 amps, which a microwave pulls 10 amps and a water heater pulls 10 amps and your air conditioner pulls 13 amps. So you see the difference there? That's kind of the equation that goes into this decision. If you're always plugged into shore power, that rolls into this formula. If you're charging with a generator, that rolls into this formula. So rule of thumb, okay, I stock a 55 amp converter in my RV. Which one do I pick? Whichever one I can buy for the best price. Okay, I'm not particular on whose name is on it, because at the end of the day, all these converters do the same thing. They all come with a 1 or 2 year warranty. I use the standalone kind. Even if you have the kind that's embedded in the bottom of your breaker panel, I orphan that in place and put my own standalone back behind it, just drag the wires over to it. So if you've got a 30 amp coach and you're concerned about using some other appliances, then go with a 45 amp. But if you're not worried about that, maybe you have a 50 amp coach, or just put a 55 watt in there. So yeah, like I said, it's a function of other things that go into it. And I think it might be a fun video to make, to get into the math behind how to pick your converter. There is an actual math formula that you can plug in. It'll spit out the answer.
Yeah, so stay tuned.
It doesn't matter. You go with whatever you want, depending on how much power you want to use to charge your batteries. Okay.
And this next one might be from the same person, because I had two different well, they might be the same mic.
Ooh.
I had, yeah. Anyways, two different ways of asking question. One was posted on a video and one was emailed.
Okay.
Okay, so the first person says, hi, I have a Lippert Schwintek slide room system, the one with horizontal tracks on top and bottom.
Yes.
One of my motors makes a knocking sound as the slide goes out. It works, but sounds abnormal. What should I do to fix it? My motors are very hard to get to from both sides. And then the next one is pretty much the same. One of my 2-bedroom slide motors makes a knocking sound as the slide goes out. I'm thinking the motor is not secured properly, or maybe the motor has an issue.
A question I would like to know is, when your room is all the way in or when your room is all the way out, is it sealed properly? Okay. Or is it off a little bit, askew? I'm not talking front to back, I'm talking top to bottom. So what would cause this knocking sound? Sometimes slide rooms that have slide toppers, what you think you're hearing in the wall is actually the spring and the slide topper that's making this clunking sound. So try to identify, is the sound coming specifically from the drive shaft in the wall, or could it be coming from the spring and the slide topper? Okay, very easy to get that confused there. So I'm wondering what would maybe be doing that. Check the rollers underneath your slide room, because if there's a roller that's got like a piece of gum or a rock or something, it might give you that frequency of bump, 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 bump. If it's a faster bump, 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 that's your drive shaft. The motor's turning, the drive shaft is moving. So what would cause that? If I was there looking at this, then I would be listening for, does it sound like, I guess the word I'm looking for is frequency. So we know about how fast the drive shaft's turning and the spear gear is turning, because that's how fast the room's going in and out. So could it be that? Could it be the slide topper spring? Could it be the roller underneath? I've even seen some screws that are holding your vertical tracks. The screws aren't seated in all the way, and the wiper seal will pop against the screw heads a little bit. So look on those low-hanging fruit things first to identify where that possibly might be. Hopefully it's just a spring in the slide topper. Now you know what the problem is, and there's really nothing you can do with it unless you want to take the whole slide topper off, which I am a fan of, by the way. We bought an RV with slide toppers, and I think the first thing I did was I took those stupid things off, because there's more posts on the forums on how to keep them from flapping and collecting rain, and we just take the damn things off. Jeez. Anyway, so It might get to, if it really is coming from inside, then yeah, you might need to take a column off and just see what's going on. If it is, the other thing I would have you do is look at the track and see if it's wearing, if the teeth are worn out. That goes back to the question, is it misaligned top to bottom? I don't care if it's misaligned left or right. It's top to bottom that I'm concerned about. And you could have a bearing block that's kind of loose that's causing it to skip. And the teeth, the spur gear are skipping on your rack. So these are some things that come to mind. But without seeing it and hearing it, it's hard. But these are just some thoughts that float through my head.
Okay. Okay, so Danny says, hi Darren, big fan of your channel. Okay. I have a question and hopefully you can help me solve a mystery. I have a 2018 Jayco Starcraft that when you plug into shore power, everything works. Okay. But when you try to use battery power, only lights work. Slide, awning, and ton jack don't work. I've gone behind the power panel and found the red wire that goes to the battery. Now's when you need your drawing board.
I do,
and it reads 11.57 when the battery reads 12.57.
Uh-huh.
The wire I'm checking has a black wire attached in a wire nut, I assume is the negative, and they both connect to the positive on the converter. Uh-huh. Battery disconnect shows good voltage going on, and coming out, it's somewhere in between. Am I missing something?
Okay.
And most importantly, this coach got plugged into 240 volts by accident, and it's never been the same.
Yeah. Okay. I don't blame it. You've lost its neutral when you did that. Okay. So when it's plugged into shore power, so yeah, there was that whole thing of hitting it with 240. That's not healthy. Let's talk about that for a second. So if this thing was hit with 240, that means you had no neutral, and that means some of the appliances don't care, but your converter probably took a hit. I've seen overwhelmingly, like if the microwave, I've seen microwaves blow up because of that. Water heaters don't always blow up, but sometimes a heating element in a water heater will blow up if it's on. If the water heater is actually consuming electricity, it's expecting to have a neutral leg, and you hit it with two phases. It's gonna. It sounds to me like your converter might be bad. Okay, why do I say that? Okay, let me go back and review some of the things you said. When it is plugged into shore power, everything works.
That's what he says.
Everything works. Now, I want to zero this whole discussion into the DC side. I don't care about the AC circuits because it sounds to me that you're having problems with the DC house circuit. Your house batteries, your house converter, all your lights, your furnace motor, the brains in your water heater, the brain in your refrigerator, the brain in your furnace. These are all 12 volt. They live in the 12 volt realm, 12 volt DC. Okay, so when you're plugged into shore power, everything works in the DC realm. So what would that mean? That would mean that AC is coming in and it's going through the converter, and the converter is then converting that 120 volts AC to 12 volts DC, getting us into the 12 volt DC realm where most things in the RV work. So when you're plugged into shore power, everything works. When you come off of shore power, now you're having issues. Some things don't work. There is a fuse. Okay. There's going to be a fuse between your batteries and your converter. I remember hearing you saying you get 11 something on one and 12 something on the other. Something like that.
Yeah, 11.57
on the house side of the DC circuit and 12 something on the battery side of the house circuit.
Yeah.
You've got a disconnect, and you said you're good on there, but there's a fuse. There's going to be a fuse usually within 3 feet of those batteries. Okay, so it sounds to me, sniff around, look around, and a lot of times those little circuit breaker type fuses, it looks like like your thumb with 2 little prongs sticking out of it and the screws go on it. Sometimes those reset themselves, sometimes there's a button you push. But look for that, because if the voltage that's coming from your batteries are sitting there at 12 volts, they're happy. Nothing's drawing them down. But so I would look there. I would look at you said there's a disconnect, so it might be upstream of the disconnect. It's probably going to be between the battery and that disconnect. Usually the rule of thumb, I find it within 3 feet of the battery, ballpark. If it's a travel trailer and you have a tongue, follow that back, and right where the arms go under the body of the RV, sometimes you'll find you might have to take a cover off, but there may be a circuit breaker type fuse right there. That might be your problem, because that would make sense with the 12 volts and 11 volts. And when you're plugged into shore power, because basically your battery is not connected to your RV because that circuit breaker has tripped. I'd go with that. Let's try that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Steve says, this is for a Dometic water heater. I have a customer with a GC6AA
6-gallon,
10E
yes, okay.
water heater that will light every time but will not stay lit.
Ah.
I have used 3 different igniters and 3 different boards to no avail. I even took my little handheld mini torch and held it to the igniter, and it still would not stay lit.
Okay.
Dometic Tech was baffled also. Any help would be appreciated. Electric works as intended.
2 thoughts come to mind. It'll light, but it won't stay lit. One of the thoughts that I have is there's a little bitty, teeny tiny orifice screwed onto the end of the gas valve right before it goes into that little J-tube thing. Okay, and you have a 6-gallon water heater. So what I would do is I would check my LP pressure at the water heater. And those water heater gas valves have that little 1/8-inch plug. We've got an LP tap jig. You can screw it right in there and get your reading of your pressure at your water heater. But I would really focus in on that little small orifice. I don't know if it's metric. I have no idea. I got all these wrenches. But you got to take that thing off. And if you have to clean it, isopropyl alcohol and a cotton tip. Don't take, you got your TIG welder, then you got that little file thing. Don't you dare put that through there. Just clean. So it could be sooted. I've seen mostly soot in there. I've also seen insects that get in there and make a nest. So I would look there. I would make sure my LP pressure was at the spec, 11 inches of water column. I would look there. I would make sure that orifice is clean. And then that little J-tubey looking deal. Sometimes spiders, I've actually seen a spider make a nest in there that's like silky, like blocking it off. So make sure that that's all cleaned out. So the other thought that I had would be contaminated propane. So try the system with a known good propane source that you know is been purged properly. We have seen where the propane cylinder was brand new, just bought this brand new propane cylinder. And if I'm a manufacturer of a propane cylinders, and when I'm done with my propane cylinder, I'm going to put dry air in it to keep it pressurized so that a week, a month, a year later, when my cylinder gets sold, okay, and it gets brought to be filled in, I want it to be under pressure still. But I can't ship cylinders and store cylinders in warehouses and all that kind of stuff if it's ever had propane in it. Can't do it. So a lot of times the manufacturers will put dry air in it, keep it pressurized, so then it goes to the shop to get filled up. And the person who knows how to purge a cylinder will say, hey, there's pressure in here. We need to purge this thing. And when you purge a cylinder, so there's a difference between purging and filling. Filling a propane cylinder, you're going to fill it with liquid propane. Purging a cylinder, you're going to fill it with propane vapor, evacuate it, propane vapor, evacuate it, propane vapor, evacuate it 3 times, you're out of here. And then you can fill it with liquid propane. And what you're trying to do is get that dry air out. And so we've seen several times where an LP appliance, you cannot. I've seen it where furnaces will make woofing sounds and you can never get them dialed in. I've seen where stoves, ovens won't light, and it's all because of propane that has oxygen in the tank. So the other thing to check would be maybe the water heater's fine and maybe it's a bad propane source. So that's another thing to check.
All right. So Jeff says, just curious, but by chance can you explain why the backflow preventer for the okay. Yeah, let me try that again.
Susie sells seashells at the seashore.
Jeff says, just curious, but by chance can you explain why the backflow preventer for the black tank flush needs to be located above the water system and up under the bathroom sink when it is completely independent of the RV freshwater system?
Certainly. That vacuum breaker, hence the term vacuum breaker, needs to be higher than all other water sources. Therefore, they put it above the sink or like right up in there. Sometimes you see them up in the shower wall. but they don't want there to be any opportunity for any siphoning effect at all. Now that is its own separate plumbing line. It does not have a check valve, so you'll usually have your little garden hosey connector things. One's city water and the other one's like Santa Flush, or they give them different names. It does not have a backflow preventer. So when you take your hose off, water's going to squirt out. It's clean. Okay, it's even though you're spraying into your black tank, it's clean because it's going to go in, go up to the vacuum breaker, which is they're clear, they're black. I've seen them different colors. They have got this little diaphragmy thing in them. Water can only go one way, and it tries to go the other way. It gets fouled out because oxygen or air pressure can get in there and force it down. So it's going to go in, up high, above all your water fixtures, which is usually why they put them under the sink or up in the shower wall, and then back down into your black tank, and it just sprays out like a big car wash jet. So that's to prevent any siphoning. You'll also notice the same exact kind of thing in a lot of your showers. You'll have that shower wand, and it's got that little ring on it so that the shower head can't go down to the drain. And it's like, why are they doing this? It's crazy. Well, they never want there to be a condition where that shower head can get down into the dirty water and somehow siphon dirty water back into the fresh water supply. Not that like I said, the Santa Flush or the black tank rinsing circuit is its own separate, doesn't touch anybody else, but it goes, but follow with me on this. Let's say that it didn't. Let's say that it didn't go up high and down low, and let's say it just went right into the black tank, and then this little siphoning effect, when you take your hose off and all that water comes out, let's say there was some black in that. And let's say that you were using the same hose that you use for your drinking water. Finish the story. Yeah. So at no point do we want that to be contaminated. And since the other end of that water line that's on the other side of the vacuum breaker is going into the black tank, they don't want there to be any chance at all that somehow siphoning has made it back into anything else. So that would be why.
Rob says, is there a way to turn up water flow on toilets? I have a restroom trailer that has some Dometic toilets that have a 90-degree angle which gets clogged. Okay. Are there higher flow toilets or ways to increase pumps output? Okay,
that's a water pressure problem. Okay, so if we were to look at your Dometic toilet water valve, there is a maximum pressure that you could expose to those before it's just plastic. Before they can take the hit. So typically what we would see on an RV is no more than 55 psi of water pressure. So design everything to 55 degree of water pressure. You're saying the 90 degrees getting clogged. Why is the 90 degree getting clogged? It's supposed to be just water. So I'm curious there. What is causing that 90 degree to get clogged if it's supposed to be a watertight system and the only thing you're feeding it is water? What's it getting clogged with? So I'm curious about that. It's a bathroom trailer, so I guess you've got a couple toilets in there. You could do an accumulator tank, but I would keep it to 55 psi. So are you running this with a water tank and you're drawing from the water tank and you're running a pump, or are you connected to city water? So I don't know quite what to do with that. I need more information for that one. The RV toilets are very low flow water appliances to begin with. And the water, if you look at a water valve, it goes through a very small orifice also. So I'm kind of not quite what to do with that one. What are you feeding the toilets with? Why are they getting clogged? I would kind of design the system to be about 55 psi of water pressure. If you can't get that, then you could probably do some kind of like a water accumulation. If you're coming off of a tank, they have these little water accumulators, but for RVs, those water accumulators aren't really that big, and mostly that's to stop the pump from going on, off anyway. But if you're connected to city water, then you might need to figure out what to do to boost your city pressure. So
okay.
I don't know. That's kind of I need more information, so sorry.
Okay, so Marshall says, hi, does my battery bank on my camper trailer need to have a grounding cable to the frame?
Yes.
All right.
The answer there is that, so think of a circuit. Okay, I am a battery. I need to leave on a wire. I need to go to a light. I need to come back to the battery. Okay, so, and that completes my circuit. So I don't want to have to pull, I have to pull a wire from the battery to the light, but I don't have to pull a wire from the light back to the battery. I could use it as a frame, okay? So a lot of times you'll find the light, I'm using a light as an example, but this could go to any DC consuming appliance. I am a wire, the battery's gonna feed your breaker fuse panel. The fuses are gonna then feed the different circuits. They're gonna go, that individual wire is gonna go into the light, for example, and they're gonna they're gonna screw it to the frame. And so now, how does the electrons get back to the battery? Through the metal frame. And so then the negative battery needs to be bonded to the frame so that all the electrons can find their way back home.
All right.
So yeah.
And Hemlock Homestead says, hello, and thank you for allowing us to ask questions, and hope and pray you are all feeling better soon. Thanks.
I had a little bit of headache, but I thought it was dehydration. That's me.
My question is, I purchased a used 2007 Itasca Sonova 35-foot Class A motorhome. Okay. I had to catch up on a lot of maintenance items the previous owner neglected, but what gives me the biggest problem now is the urine smell that comes from the heat ducts of the hot air system when I turn the propane heat on. Okay. I have cleaned out the ducts of any debris, but I still get that smell when I run the heat. Any suggestions?
Overwhelmingly, that's probably from rodents. Yeah, that's a rodent issue, I would think. I don't think anybody's peeing in the ducts. So that's rats or raccoons or squirrels. I've seen all these rodent things. Wow, that's a tough one. So approach that from the perspective of rodent urine smell, and maybe there's a product you can put in there. I know that smell. It's a disgusting smell. I hate that smell. I've had it in my RV. Eventually it went away. I got cats to get all the rodents, and then I had to go back and fix all of my duct work. And I don't think I got it all because there's a couple ducts that are just, I think I'm heating under my floor space there. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm probably not the best one to answer there. That would be a person that understands a little bit more about how to get rid of organic odors like urine and stuff in your ductwork. Certainly make sure that the rodents are gone somehow. The trick there is don't bait them in the RV, bait them away from the RV, because the last thing you want is the rodent to come to your RV, eat the bait, and then die in your RV. You want them to go, you want to bait them like away from the RV. So hopefully the rodents are gone and they didn't do too much damage, but if they're in there making a nest, I'm sure they may have done some damage. So not quite sure, but if you find something, share it with others and like, hey, this worked really well, but off the top of my head, I don't know what to do there.
Okay.
Vinegar, baking soda, I don't know.
All right, and this is our last question. Edward says, I have an HWH leveling system. Mm-hmm. I was wondering if you could explain how to adjust or zero this system. My motorhome appears to be almost a half bubble out of level quite often. Okay. Thanks in advance. He did give his model number and all that, but I don't know if you want it.
For the model number, I need to look it up. But overwhelmingly, my experience with HWH is they have these little shoebox looking things with clear covers on them. And one of those is going to have this, so the shoebox, I'm going to call them a shoebox. Now, if yours isn't like this, I'm sorry, but I didn't look up your part number beforehand. But so they have these shoebox things, they're about the size of a shoebox, big aluminum things with little clear Tupperware lid things on them. It's impossible to get the little rubber gasket around these things. It's just maddening. It can be done, but it's, especially on the older systems where the rubber gets kind of hard, it's just, anyway, having flashbacks. If your system's like this, or you have an HWH like this, then oftentimes what we find is one of those shoebox things, it's usually the one, they'll stack a bunch of them on top, which is pretty brilliant actually, but I just don't like the way they cover them, the little gasket. You're gonna find this little wafer looking, motherboard looking deal that's oriented this way, where all the shoe boxes are stacked this way. And there's two little screws where you can like play that little tilt table game, and that's how you get your null point, your 0 point. So see if you can find, if you're, I haven't looked up your model number, but this is typically how you would adjust those things. Is by finding that little window that all the covers are clear, and finding that little motherboard wafer looking deal that you can adjust, like that little level thing, and just tweak it a little bit, and that would be how you would adjust your null point on your HWH, overwhelmingly not knowing specifically what model number you have. Now, having said that, HWH has a fantastic website with more documentation that you could read in a year of, it's like Gone with the Wind in your documentation. They've even got HWH University, which I've taken. phenomenal training courses on that. Now I haven't been on their website in a while, okay? Because once you take the course, you're like, I know all this now. I use it to reference. But no, HWH has a fantastic website. I don't know if it was HWH Academy, HWH University, where you can take all their courses and everything. Really fantastic training. The manuals are very well written with a lot of pictures, but they're black and white. So I needed to get my crayons as a Marine and color them in. I'm like, okay, well, that's yellow, that's red. But my point is, if you really get stuck, just go to the HWH website. I don't know what their URL is, but it's and find your. They must have 1,000 manuals. Maybe I'm exaggerating. It's a lot of manuals. So find your manual, and it's going to be in there, and they will totally knock it out of the park with getting that information to you all through the manuals and stuff like that.
All right. I'll put a link down.
Yay.
All right. Thanks for joining us for our sit-down Q&A.
Yeah.
We are probably just going to do our next live stream Q&A the first Friday of the month as planned in June. So join us then. But otherwise, if you see a little live stream pop up, feel free to join us.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for your support.
All right. We'll see you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.